Many come to me and ask, Neville, how do I know if this person is meant for me? How can I be certain that God desires this union? And to this, I must tell you a fundamental truth that may at first seem startling. God does not want you to be with anyone. God is you, and it is your desire that is God's desire expressing through you. Let me explain this profound concept. In the beginning of all things, there was only God. The Bible tells us, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. There is only one God, one consciousness, one I am, fragmenting itself into seeming multitudes for the purpose of experiencing all that is. You are not some separate entity waiting for God's permission or approval to love another. You, in your truest essence, are God experiencing a human journey. When you feel the stirring of love, the longing for union with another, that is not separate from God, that is God in you, desiring an experience through you. The first and most fundamental sign that God wants you to be with someone is your own deep desire for that union. Not the shallow desire born of loneliness or societal expectation, but that profound recognition that feels like remembering rather than discovering. I am that I am. This is the name God gave to Moses. I am is the true name of God. And it is the name you use countless times daily. When you say, I am lonely, I am in love, I am seeking my divine partner, that is God declaring those states. So the first step in recognizing divine guidance toward a relationship is to become exquisitely aware of your I am declarations. Are you saying I am incomplete without someone? Then you are creating that reality. Instead, assume the state of I am divinely complete. And from this completeness, I share union with my perfect divine partner. Feel the distinction. One creates from lack, the other from fullness. Now let me share with you the signs that your consciousness that God within you is aligning with the manifestation of divine partnership. But remember, these are not signs from some external deity, but signals from your own divine nature that creation is in progress. The first sign is synchronicity. When the same name repeatedly appears, when chance meetings defy statistical probability, when books fall open to passages that speak directly to your heart's longing, these are not coincidences. There are no coincidences in a universe governed by law. These are the early stirrings of manifestation, the pre-echo of your assumption taking form. Consider the biblical story of Abraham's servant, sent to find a wife for Isaac. He asked for a specific sign, that the woman who offered water to both him and his camels would be the one. Rebekah appeared and did exactly that. The servant didn't know that his consciousness had already selected her. The sign was merely the confirmation of what was already done in consciousness. The second sign is the feeling of recognition. Not mere physical attraction, which belongs to Caesar's world, but that profound sense of remembering someone you had never met. When you meet someone and feel as though you have known them for 1,000 years, that is consciousness recognizing itself in another form. It is God knowing God through the veil of flesh. I recall a woman who came to me confused about two potential partners. One offered financial security and social status. The other offered nothing externally, but produced in her a sense of complete peace and recognition. I told her, the one who brings peace is the one sent by your own higher self. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. She chose peace and found all the other things were added unto her naturally. For that is the law. The third sign is the transformation of your inner conversation. When thoughts of a specific person consistently lift your inner dialogue to higher ground, this is spirit bearing witness. If thoughts of them make you more generous, more patient, more loving to all, not just to them, this is evidence of divine alignment. Your inner conversation is your direct connection to God, for it's God talking to God within the temple of your mind. When that conversation consistently elevates in the presence of thoughts about a particular person, your thine self is showing you compatibility at the soul level. However, I must caution you against misinterpreting this sign. If thoughts of someone make you petty, jealous, possessive, or diminished, this is not divine guidance toward them, but away from your own lower nature. God cannot guide you to a relationship that diminishes God, and you are God in expression. The fourth sign is found in your dreams. In sleep, your conscious mind rests, and your magnificent human imagination, which is God in action, speaks to you in symbols and scenarios. When a particular person repeatedly appears in your dreams in context of harmony, growth, or divine symbolism, your deeper self is communicating. Scripture tells us that God speaks to us in dreams and visions of the night when deep sleep falls upon men. Joseph was guided to take Mary as his wife through a dream. Jacob saw his future in a dream of a ladder extending to heaven. Your dreams may be showing you not just a person, but the spiritual potential that union represents. Pay particular attention to recurring dreams or dreams of unusual clarity and emotional resonance. These are not mere night wanderings of a restless mind, but can be communications from the depths of divine wisdom within you. The fifth sign is divine discontent. When you feel a persistent, unshakable sense that something or someone is missing from your life. This is not mere human loneliness. It is your expanded consciousness creating the contrast needed for manifestation. Before any desire can be fulfilled, there must first be the awareness of unfulfillment. Before the plant breaks through soil, there must be the stirring in darkness. Your divine discontent is the birthing pain of manifestation. It is not to be suppressed or denied, but to be recognized as the first movement of God within you toward the fulfillment of the desire. Remember always that feeling is the secret. The sensation of wholeness that comes from imagining your divine union is the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. It is faith in its purest form, not faith in an external God to bring you someone, but faith in the God within you that has already completed the creation in the invisible. The sixth sign comes through the words and actions of others. When unrelated people begin to speak to you of partnership, love, or specific qualities that you seek in a partner, this is often your own consciousness echoing to you. The world is yourself pushed out. Everyone is an aspect of your consciousness made visible. If three different friends suddenly begin telling you about the same person, or if strangers start conversations about love and partnership with you, this is not random. It is the law of attraction in action, drawing to you the conversations that match your dominant internal state. In Scripture, we see this when Ruth followed Naomi's instructions and positioned herself at Boaz's feet. Boaz's response, his immediate desire to protect and marry her, was not separate from Ruth's consciousness. It was her consciousness made manifest through him. When the right words come to you from others regarding partnership, they are your own profound beliefs echoing in the chamber of physical reality. The seventh sign is physical sensations that defy ordinary explanation. When thinking of a particular person brings a rush of energy up your spine, a warming of your heart center, or a sense of expansion in your chest, these can be spirit bearing witness to spirit. Your physical body is not separate from your consciousness. It is consciousness condensed into form. When your body responds to thoughts of someone with sensations of harmony and expansion rather than contraction and discomfort, this is worth paying attention to. The body often knows before the conscious mind catches up. However, I must make an important distinction here. I am not speaking of mere physical attraction or what the world calls chemistry. These belong to the world of Caesar, and, while not to be denied, are not reliable indicators of divine alignment. I speak instead of those profound physical knowings that feel like remembrance in your very cells. The eighth sign is synchronicity with divine timing. When meetings, separations, and reconnections with a person follow a pattern that aligns with spiritual timing, cycles of 7, or significant dates, or religious holidays meaningful to you, this suggests consciousness orchestrating at a higher level than the merely personal. A student once told me how she met her divine partner 3 times over 7 years, each time on the same date, each time unpredictably, until the third mind when they recognized the pattern and the purpose. This was not chance, but consciousness creating according to divine law. Scripture is filled with the importance of timing. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. When the timing of your connections with someone consistently aligns with meaningful patterns or follows after specific inner work or spiritual growth, this is consciousness speaking through the language of time. The ninth sign manifests as unusual clarity and certainty. Most human decisions are fraught with doubt, weighing of pros and cons, and mental debate. But divine guidance toward a relationship often brings with it an unusual clarity that transcends logical analysis. This is not blind infatuation, which is emotional and fluctuating. This is a deep, steady knowing that remains consistent even when external circumstances challenge it. It feels less like deciding and more like discovering what is already known. Scripture tells us, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. This knowing is not intellectual but intuitive, the direct perception of truth that needs no external validation. When you experience this level of certainty about a person's role in your life, it is your divine self recognizing a path of high alignment. The 10th sign appears as the natural alignment of practical matters. When obstacles to union dissolve without forced effort, when living circumstances, job opportunities, or family situations naturally adjust to facilitate your togetherness, this is the universe which is your consciousness made manifest, supporting the fulfillment of your assumption. A couple once told me how they lived in different countries with no prospect of relocation, yet within months of their commitment to being together, both were independently offered positions in the same small town. This is consciousness creating reality, not mere coincidence. Before they call, I will answer, says Isaiah. The preparations for your divine union are set in motion long before your conscious mind recognizes them. When practical details arrange themselves with unusual ease, this is often evidence of divine orchestration. But remember, and this is absolutely crucial, all these signs are not coming from some external God who approves or disapproves of your relationship choices. They are communications from your own divinity, your own I am guiding you toward or away from particular expressions of love based on your true desires and highest good. Now I want to address a delicate but important point. Many of you may be focused on a specific person, wondering if they are the one God wants for you. This very question contains a misunderstanding of the law. God, which is your own wonderful human imagination, does not choose someone for you. You choose, and in your choice, you are exercising the divine creative power. If you have chosen someone specific, the question becomes not whether God wants you to be with them, but whether you are approaching that desire from your highest consciousness. Are you seeking to possess them, to fill an emptiness, to escape loneliness? Or are you recognizing them as another divine expression with whom you wish to share the experience of love? The answer to this question determines whether your manifestation will bring fulfillment or disappointment. For the law is exact, it delivers not the person but the state of consciousness you associate with that person. If your consciousness is one of lack seeking fulfillment, you will continue to experience lack even if the specific person comes into your life. This is why I teach that feeling is the secret. If you can feel the wholeness, the divine completeness, the absence of need, while imagining your relationship with a specific person, that state of consciousness will manifest either through relationship with that person or through another channel that may surprise and delight you beyond your current imaginings. Remember what is written in Isaiah, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. The divine wisdom within you may have channels of fulfillment you cannot currently conceive. Your task is not to determine the channel, but to remain faithful to the state, the feeling of fulfilled love. Let me share a profound truth that many find difficult to accept. The specific person you desire is actually irrelevant. What you are truly seeking is the feat you believe union with them will bring. They are the symbol, not the substance of your desire. When you understand this, you are free to focus on embodying the state of divine union, knowing that as you do, the perfect expression of that state must manifest according to law. It may be with the person you envision, or it may be with someone who embodies the qualities you seek even more perfectly. Let us now discuss how to apply these principles practically. The technique is simple but requires persistent faithfulness. Each night as you drop off to sleep, construct a scene that would imply your divine union is already accomplished. Perhaps you are introducing your partner to family, sharing your home, or simply experiencing the peace of their presence beside you. The scene should be simple and easily repeated. Its power comes not from complexity, but from the feeling it evokes. As you enact this scene in your imagination, feel the naturalness of it. This is not fantasy or wishful thinking. It is consciousness creating at the causal level. Feel the gratitude, the sense of isn't it wonderful that accompanies the fulfillment of a heart's desire. Then sleep in this consciousness. For scripture tells us he gives to his beloved in sleep. In sleep, your conscious objections are silenced, and the seed of assumption can take root in the fertile soil of the subconscious. Do this faithfully and watch for the signs we have discussed. They will come, not as confirmation from an external deity, but as evidence of your own divine creative power reshaping reality according to your assumption. And this is vital. Do not keep digging up the seed to see if it's growing. Once you have planted the assumption in consciousness through feeling, your work is done. To continually check for results or to talk about the absence of manifestation is to deny the creative act you have performed. I am the resurrection and the life. This is the declaration of creative consciousness. You need not wonder when or how your divine union will manifest. You need only maintain the faithful assumption that it is done. There may be what appears to be a period of gestation between your assumption and its manifestation in the visible world. During this time, many make the mistake of returning to old patterns of thought and feeling. They question, they doubt. They speak of loneliness and search for signs of failure. Do not fall into this trap. Having planted the seed, tend now to your own garden. Become the person who is worthy of the divine love you seek. Not to earn it, for God's gifts require no earning, but to align your entire being with the assumption you have made. In practical terms, this means maintaining an inner conversation that is consistent with your assumption. When thoughts of loneliness or separation arise, do not fight them or deny them, for what we resist persists. Instead, gently replace them with the quiet confidence of one who knows it is done. You might say to yourself, isn't it wonderful that divine love is now expressing in my life? Feel the truth of this statement. Let it permeate your being until it becomes more real than the temporary appearance of its absence. For here is a mystery. What you assume as true has a way of making all evidence to the contrary disappear. This is the meaning of Scripture when it says, all things work together for good to those who love God, or more accurately translated, to those who are aligned with the divine purpose. When your assumption is aligned with your deepest desires, which are God's desires within you, all circumstances, no matter how seemingly contradictory, are working toward the fulfillment of that assumption. I have seen countless individuals manifest their divine partners through these principles. A woman who had been alone for decades imagined a simple scene of wearing a wedding ring and feeling a profound sense of rightness. Within months, she met a man who matched her unspoken desires so completely that she knew him immediately, though they had never met in this life. Another student imagined the sensation of his name being called by the voice of his divine partner, feeling the love in the simple sound. He faithfully imagined this each night until the feeling was more real than his physical solitude. The manifestation came through a childhood friend reconnecting after 20 years. Someone who had been there all along, but required his shift in consciousness to recognize. These are not anomalies or lucky coincidences. These are demonstrations of the perfect law of consciousness. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Your assumption, when filled with the feeling of naturalness, hardens into fact. Now some of you may wonder about divine timing. Why, you ask, if I am faithfully assuming and feeling my divine union, does it not manifest immediately? This is where trust in divine wisdom comes into play. In the invisible realm where consciousness creates, your manifestation is already complete. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The moment of fulfillment, it done in the mind did not exist. Its expression in the world of Caesar, the three-dimensional reality we navigate daily, follows divine timing, which is always perfect. Remember that in Scripture, Sarah waited until it seemed biologically impossible before the manifestation of her heart's desire A child appeared. Divine timing often defies human expectation. The secret is to live in the end, to so completely occupy. The consciousness of your wish fulfilled, that time ceases to be a factor in your awareness. From the perspective of fulfilled consciousness, divine timing is always now. The waiting is only in the world of appearances, not in the world of reality. Let me address another common concern. Many ask, but Neville, what if the person I desire is with someone else? What if there are obstacles that seem insurmountable? To this, I remind you of the fundamental principle. Consciousness is the only reality. The relationship status of your desired partner, the geographical distance between you, the seeming impossibilities in your external reality, these are all part of the shadow world, the world of effects. You, as the operant power, are concerned only with cause, which is consciousness. When you shift your consciousness, all the shadows must rearrange themselves accordingly. This is law, not miracle. Just as changing the position of an object necessarily changes its shadow, changing your consciousness necessarily changes your experience. If I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. When you lift your consciousness to the level of divine fulfillment, everything in your world must be drawn into alignment with that state. This is not manipulation of others, it is the exercise of your divine creative power. Remember always that everyone in your reality is yourself pushed out. The person you desire, their current partners, the circumstances that seem to separate you, all are expressions of your consciousness externalized. Change the inner, and the outer must follow. But here I must offer a word of caution. The law works with absolute precision, giving you not what you want, but what you are. If your consciousness is one of desperation, manipulation, or neediness, these are the qualities that will be reflected back to you in any relationship you manifest. This is why I emphasize feeling the naturalness of your wish fulfilled, embodying the state of divine love already expressed. From this state, only a relationship that truly serves your highest good can manifest, for consciousness attracts its equivalents. Now I will address the subtle but crucial distinction between wanting and having. When you want something, you perpetuate the state of wanting. The law knows no distinction between I want love and I experience the continual state of wanting love. But when you assume the feeling of already having, you activate an entirely different law. To him that hath, it shall be given. The assumption of having creates the reality of having, while the consciousness of wanting creates only more wanting. This is why I instruct you to construct your imaginal scene from the perspective of already being in divine union. Not seeking it, not deserving it, not working toward it, but experiencing it as a present reality. Feel the hand of your beloved in yours. Hear their breathing beside you in the stillness of night. Experience the comfort of belonging that comes from true divine partnership. Let these feelings become so vivid, so natural that returning to the consciousness of seeking would feel foreign. Here is a simple but powerful technique. Throughout your day, whenever you think of love or partnership, say inwardly, "Isn't it wonderful now that divine love is expressed in my life?" Feel the truth of this statement. Let the feeling penetrate your being until all contrary evidence seems temporary and insubstantial. For you are not working with effects, you are working with cause. And in the realm of cause consciousness, what you claim as true must eventually externalize as fact. Scripture tells us, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your faith, which is your feeling conviction of the reality of your assumption, is the actual substance from which your experience will be formed. It is not blind hope, it is creative power. I have shared with you the signs that indicate alignment with divine partnership. But remember that these signs are not prerequisites to your manifestation. They are confirmations that can strengthen your faith. But the true creative act occurs in consciousness, requiring nothing external. If you find yourself obsessively looking for signs, gently redirect your attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. For the signs follow the assumption. The assumption does not require signs to be valid. Let me share a powerful truth that has transformed countless lives. everyone is already your divine partner in potential. When you assume the state of being divinely partnered, you are not changing another person. You are activating a state of consciousness that will express through whoever is most aligned with that state. This is liberation. You need not worry whether a specific person will change or whether circumstances will align. Your only responsibility is to the state you occupy, knowing with absolute certainty that the perfect expression of that state must manifest according to law. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The divine partnership you seek is not something to attain, but something to express from within. As you embody the consciousness of fulfilled divine love, you become a magnet for its expression in your visible world. The world may tell you that finding true love is difficult, that good partners are scarce, that age or circumstance limits your possibilities. These are the beliefs of those living in the shadow world of effects, unaware of their own creative power. You, having heard these truths, know better. You understand that consciousness is the only reality, and that what you claim in consciousness with feeling certainty must objectify itself in your world. Claim then your divine union, not with the desperate energy of seeking, but with the calm assurance of knowing. Feel its reality until the feeling itself becomes your dwelling place, your natural state of being. For in truth, the partnership you seek is first and foremost a partnership with your own divinity. As you unite your human awareness with the God's self within, all external relationships naturally align with this inner harmony. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. The kingdom is consciousness, the divine state from which all blessings flow. Establish yourself in the consciousness of divine love fulfilled, and the manifestation of your perfect partner becomes a natural expression of that state. Remember always that God's desire for you is your own deepest desire. There is no separation. The longing you feel for divine partnership is God's longing to experience love through you. Honor this longing not by seeking outside yourself, but by recognizing it as the divine stirring within, guiding you toward the fulfillment that already exists in the invisible. As you retire tonight, know with absolute certainty that divine love is already yours in consciousness. The signs we have discussed are merely confirmations of what you have already created through your assumption. They do not create the reality, they reflect it. Feel the deep gratitude that comes with knowing it is done. Let this gratitude be your pillow as you drift into sleep, for gratitude is the open door through which manifestation flows most freely. And when you awaken tomorrow, carry this knowing with you. Let it inform your words, your actions, your expectations. Live from the state of divine partnership fulfilled, and watch as the world rearranges itself to match your dominant consciousness. For you are God's desire expressing, and what you claim with feeling conviction must by divine law be given unto you, not as a reward for faithfulness, but as the natural consequence of consciousness creating reality. The signs God wants you to be with someone are nothing more or less than the stirrings of your own divine consciousness guiding you toward the fulfillment of love's expression. Recognize these signs not as external validation, but as confirmation of your own creative power at work. And know with unshakable certainty that divine love is your birthright, your natural state, and the inevitable expression of your highest consciousness. Claim it now in the silence of your heart, and through the perfect law, it is done unto you as you have believed. For thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory forever. The kingdom is consciousness, the power is assumption, and the glory is manifestation. All are yours now in the divine reality where time and separation are merely shadows and love is the only truth. Go now in the peace of knowing it is done. For in consciousness, the only reality, your divine partnership, is already complete. The signs will follow as naturally as dawn follows night, confirming what you have already created through the perfect law of assumption. Remember, I am the resurrection and the life. In claiming your divine I am nature, you resurrect the consciousness of fulfilled love, breathing life into its expression in your visible world. This is your divine heritage, your spiritual right, and the perfect fulfillment of God's desire expressing through you as you. Thank you, and good night. As we embark on this journey together, I want you to cast aside all preconceived notions of strength and movement. Forget what the world has told you about being strong or moving on. For in this eternal moment, we shall redefine these concepts in a way that will awaken you to your true nature as a divine being. capable of shaping your reality through the power of your imagination. Let us begin by understanding what it truly means to be strong. Strength, my dear friends, is not a physical attribute, nor is it a measure of your ability to endure hardship. True strength lies in your capacity to imagine and believe. It is the unwavering faith in the reality of your desires, even when your senses deny their existence. This is the strength that moves mountains, that parts seas, that transforms the very fabric of your world. Consider for a moment the story of David and Goliath. The world saw a small shepherd boy facing an insurmountable giant. But David saw something entirely different. In his mind's eye, he had already defeated Goliath. His strength lay not in his physical prowess, but in his unshakable belief in his victory. And it was this belief, this inner knowing, that manifested as the reality we now recount as history. You see, my beloved listeners, to be strong is to hold fast to your imaginary acts. It is to persist in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, regardless of the appearances that surround you. This strength is not born of muscle or sinew, but of the boundless power of your consciousness. Now let us turn our attention to the concept of moving on. In the world of Caesar, moving on often implies leaving something behind, running away from pain or disappointment. But I tell you this, true movement is not physical. It is a shift in consciousness. To move on is to ascend to a higher state of awareness, to elevate your thoughts and feelings to align with your desired reality. Imagine, if you will, a man trapped in a prison cell. He may pace back and forth within his confines, believing he is moving, but he remains imprisoned. Now picture this same man sitting quietly in his cell, yet in his mind he walks freely under the open sky, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, the grass beneath his feet. Which man, I ask you, has truly moved? The one who has shifted his consciousness, who has moved in his imagination, is the one who has truly moved on. For all physical movement is but a shadow, a reflection of the movement that first takes place in consciousness. So when I say to you, be strong and move on, I am inviting you to harness the creative power of your imagination. Be strong in your conviction that you are the operant power in your world. Move on by shifting your consciousness to embody the state of your fulfilled desire. Let me share with you a principle that underlies this truth, the law of assumption. This law states that you become what you assume yourself to be. If you persist in the assumption that you are the person you wish to be, living the life you desire to live, that assumption will harden into fact. This, my friends, is the true meaning of being strong and moving on. Consider a woman who desires a loving relationship. She has faced heartbreak and disappointment, and the world tells her to be strong and move on by hardening her heart, by learning to live alone. But I say to her, be strong in your assumption that you are deeply loved and cherished. Move on by shifting your consciousness to the state of being in a fulfilling relationship. Feel the love, the companionship, the joy as if it were already yours. For in truth, it is in the reality of your imagination, which is the one true reality. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, I have tried to imagine better circumstances, and nothing has changed. To you, I say this, your imaginal acts have not failed. They have borne fruit exactly as you have planted them. If you have imagined with doubt, with fear, with a sense of effort, then those very states have manifested in your world. The secret, my dear friends, is to imagine from the end. See your desire as already fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of its completion. Do not strive to make it so, for in striving you affirm its absence. Instead, relax into the knowing that it is done. This is what it means to be strong, to have unshakable faith in the reality of your imaginal act. And in this state of faith, you move on. You move from the consciousness of lack to the consciousness of abundance. You move from the awareness of loneliness to the awareness of love. You move from the perception of illness to the knowing of perfect health. This movement, this shift in consciousness, is the most powerful motion you can ever make. Let me illustrate this with a personal experience. Many years ago, I found myself in New York City, penniless and unknown. The world would have told me to be strong and move on by seeking menial work, by lowering my aspirations. But I knew the truth of what I now share with you. I assumed the state of being a successful lecturer, sharing these profound truths with eager audiences. I lived from that assumption, feeling the joy of it, the fulfillment of it. And lo and behold, within a short span of time, I was standing before audiences, sharing these very principles. The outer world rearranged itself to match my inner assumption. I did not physically strive or struggle. I moved in consciousness, and the physical reality followed suit. This, my friends, is the pattern of the universe. First the imaginal act, then its physical reflection. Your outer world is nothing more than a shadow cast by the light of your consciousness. Change the consciousness, and the shadow must change. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what of my current circumstances? What of my struggles and pains? To you I say this, your circumstances, no matter how seemingly real or solid, are but reflections of past assumptions. They have no power to persist unless you grant them that power through your continued assumption of their reality. Be strong then in assuming a new state. Move on by shifting your consciousness to embody that which you desire to be. Your current circumstances will dissolve and reform in harmony with your new assumption, just as naturally as ice melts in the warmth of the sun. Consider the biblical story of the Exodus. The Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, their circumstances dire and seemingly unchangeable. But Moses, understanding the principle we discussed tonight, assumed the state of freedom. He moved in consciousness to the promised land long before a single physical step was taken. It was this movement in consciousness, this assumption of the state of freedom, that set in motion the events that led to the physical liberation of his people. The plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, these were but outer manifestations of an inner shift in consciousness. You, my dear listeners, are faced with your own Egypt, be it financial hardship, ill health, unfulfilling relationships, or any other form of bondage. The world may tell you to be strong and move on by gritting your teeth and enduring. But I tell you, be strong in your assumption of freedom, of abundance, of health, of love. Move on by shifting your consciousness to the state of your fulfilled desire. Imagine yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Speak, think, and act from that state. This is true strength. The strength to persist in your imaginal act, despite all evidence to the contrary. This is true movement. The shift in consciousness that precedes all outer change. Now let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. How does one maintain strength in the face of contrary evidence? How does one move on when the senses scream of limitation and lack? The key, my friends, lies in understanding the nature of your own consciousness. You are not a helpless observer of your thoughts and feelings. You are the author of them. Just as an author can revise a story, you can revise the contents of your consciousness. When doubts arise, when fear creeps in, recognize them for what they are, old patterns of thought, old assumptions seeking to reassert themselves. Do not fight them, for in fighting, you give them power. Instead, gently but firmly replace them with your new assumption. If, for instance, you are assuming the state of financial abundance and you find yourself worrying about bills, do not bill yourself for this lapse. Simply revise it. In your imagination, see yourself easily paying those bills. Feel the relief, the confidence, the abundance. This revision, done consistently, will transform your outer world. Remember, my dear listeners, that your imagination is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. In your imagination, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. And as you persist in this imaginal act, as you live from the assumption of its fulfillment, you will find your outer world reshaping itself to match your inner vision. This is what it truly means to be strong and move on. It is not a matter of forcing change through willpower or action. It is a matter of changing your concept of self, of assuming the state of your wish fulfilled, and letting the outer world conform to this new inner reality. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Sold into slavery by his brothers, imprisoned on false charges, Joseph could have succumbed to bitterness and despair. The world would have understood if he had merely endured, if he had simply been strong enough to survive his ordeals. But Joseph did more than survive. He thrived. How? By maintaining an unshakable assumption of his divine nature, of his destined greatness. In the depths of the prison, he assumed the state of a wise counselor, of a leader. And lo and behold, he rose to become the second most powerful man in Egypt, saving not only himself, but his entire family and nation. This, my friends, is the power that lies within you. No matter your current circumstances, no matter the challenges you face, you have within you the divine capacity to assume any state you desire. And as you assume that state, as you live from it in your imagination, your outer world must, by cosmic law, reorganize itself to reflect your assumption. Now, some of you may be wondering, how long must I persist in my assumption before I see results to you? I say this, time is a construct of the human mind. In the realm of imagination, in the reality of consciousness, there is only the eternal now. Your desire is not something to be attained in the future. It is a present reality in your consciousness. Live from that reality now. Feel its truth, its naturalness now. For in truth, The moment you can feel the reality of desire, it is yours. The outer manifestation is merely catching up to the inner truth. Let me share with you a technique that I have found particularly powerful in maintaining this state of faith, this strength of assumption. I call it living in the end before you sleep each night. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it as vivid and as real as you can. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the naturalness of your desire fulfilled. As you drift off to sleep in this state, you are impressing this reality upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, which knows no difference between imaginal and physical experience, will begin to work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for the outer manifestation of your inner experience. This, my dear friends, is true strength. The strength to persist in your imaginal act night after night, regardless of outer appearances. And this is true movement, the shift in consciousness that occurs as you live more and more from the state of your wish fulfilled. Now let us address a question that often arises, what of action? Should we not take action towards our goals? To this I say, of course, take action when you are inspired to do so. But understand that inspired action flows naturally from your assumed state. When you truly assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you will find yourself naturally taking actions in harmony with that state. These actions will not feel like effort or struggle. They will feel natural, inevitable, joyful. Consider a man who assumes the state of being a successful author. He doesn't force himself to write. He writes because in his assumed state, that's what he naturally does. The words flow, the ideas come. Because in his consciousness, he is already that successful author. This is the difference between action born of lack and action born of fulfillment. When you act from a state of lack, trying to get something you don't have, your actions are tinged with anxiety, with effort. But when you act from the state of fulfillment, your actions are effortless expressions of your assumed reality. So be strong in your assumption, move on to the consciousness of your wish fulfilled, and let your actions flow naturally from that state. This is the path of least resistance, the path of joy and fulfillment. Now, my dear listeners, I want to address a vital point. Some of you may be thinking, but Neville, I have responsibilities, challenges, problems that demand my attention. How can I ignore these and live in an imaginal state? To you, I say this, you are not ignoring your challenges. You are transcending them. By assuming the state of your wish fulfilled, you are elevating your consciousness above the level at which these problems exist. And from this higher state, solutions will present themselves that were invisible from your previous state of consciousness. Remember, the outer world is a reflection of your inner state. As you change your inner state, your perception and experience of the outer world must change. What seemed an insurmountable problem from one state of consciousness may dissolve entirely or present a simple solution when viewed from a higher state. This is why I urge you to be strong and move on. Be strong in maintaining your desired state, regardless of appearances. Move on to a higher level of consciousness, where your desires are not future possibilities but present realities. Let me illustrate this with a story. A woman once came to me in deep distress. Her husband had left her for another, and her world was shattered. She wanted to know how she could be strong and move on. The world would have advised her to accept her loss, to harden her heart, to learn to live alone. But I guided her to imagine a scene that implied her desired end. She chose to imagine lying in bed at night, feeling her husband's presence beside her, feeling the wedding ring on her finger, feeling the love and contentment of a happy marriage. Night after night, she enacted this scene in her imagination as she fell asleep. During the day, she lived from the assumption that she was happily married. When doubts arose, when pain threatened to overwhelm her, she gently but firmly returned to her assumption. Weeks passed, and then months. And then one day her husband returned, not out of guilt or obligation, but with a renewed love and commitment. Their marriage was restored, stronger and more loving than before. You see, my friends, this woman was strong, not in fighting against her reality, but in maintaining her desired state in her imagination. She moved on, not by accepting a future without her husband, but by shifting her consciousness to a state where their love was restored. This is the pattern you must follow, regardless of your specific desire, be it health, wealth, love, or any other form of fulfillment. Assume the state of your wish fulfilled. Be strong in that assumption. Move on to live from that state, letting go of any contradictory thoughts or feelings. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, what if I assume a state and nothing happens? What if I imagine and still fail to you? I say this, failure is impossible. What you perceive as failure is merely your manifestation in progress. Remember, your outer world cannot help but reflect your inner state. If you have truly assumed your desired state, if you have moved your consciousness to live from the end, then your manifestation is as certain as dawn following the night. What appears as delay or failure is often the necessary reorganization of your outer world to match your new inner state. Trust in this process. Be strong in your knowing that what you have assumed in your imagination must externalize in your world. Consider the growth of a tree from a seed. Once planted, the seed doesn't immediately sprout into a full-grown tree. There's a period where, to outer appearances, nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, profound changes are taking place. The seed is gathering resources, breaking open, sending out roots. Your imaginal act is like that seed. Once planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious, it begins to grow. The fact that you can't yet see its outer manifestation doesn't negate its reality. Be strong in your faith during this gestation period. Move on in your consciousness, living more and more from your desired state. Let me share with you another principle that will aid you in this process. I call it the law of reversibility. This law states that if a physical event can produce a psychological state, then that psychological state can produce the physical event. For instance, if winning a large sum of money would make you feel secure and abundant, then feeling secure and abundant can attract that large sum of money to you. If being in a loving relationship would make you feel cherished and happy, then feeling cherished and happy can attract that loving relationship to you. This is why it's so vital to live from the end, to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By doing so, you are engaging the law of reversibility, setting in motion the forces that will bring about the physical conditions that match your psychological state. So when I say be strong and move on, I am inviting you to be strong in maintaining the psychological state that corresponds to your desire for life. Move on by shifting your consciousness to live from that state, regardless of outer appearances. Now, my dear listeners, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, I want to address a question that often arises. Never people ask, if imagination creates reality, why do we see so much suffering in the world? Why don't people just imagine better circumstances for themselves? To this, I say people do create their reality through imagination, but often unconsciously. Most people are not aware of their creative power. They react to life, assuming states based on their circumstances, not realizing that their circumstances are the result of their previous assumptions. This is why I share these truths with you, to awaken you to your divine nature, to your creative power. When you become aware that your imagination creates your reality, you move from being a passive victim of circumstances to being the active creator of your life. This is the true meaning of being strong and moving on. It is the strength to assume responsibility for your life, recognizing that your outer world is a reflection of your inner state. It is moving on from a state of unconscious creation to one of conscious, deliberate creation. Imagine a world where everyone understood this truth, where each person consciously assumed the state of their fulfilled desires. Such a world would be free from conflict, from lack, from suffering. For in such a world, each person would know that their good comes not at the expense of others, but from the infinite abundance of their own imagination. You, my dear friends, have the power to create such a world. It begins with you, with your assumption, with your shift in consciousness. As you embody these truths, as you live from the state of your wishes fulfilled, you become a light in the world, inspiring others to awaken to their own divine nature. So I urge you, be strong in your assumption of your desired state. Move on to live from that state, letting go of all that contradicts it. Know that as you do this, you are not just changing your individual life, you are contributing to the transformation of the entire world. For you are not separate from the world. You are the world. Your consciousness is the very substance from which your reality is formed. As you elevate your consciousness, you elevate the world. In closing, my beloved listeners, remember this: you are divine beings endowed with the creative power of the universe. Your imagination is the very workshop in which your world is shaped. Be strong in your use of this power. Move on to embody the highest, most beautiful state you can conceive. Let your light shine brightly, illuminating not just your own path, but the paths of all those around you. For as you assume the state of your fulfilled desires, as you live from the end, you become a living testimony to the transformative power of imagination. Go forth then with this knowledge. Be strong in your faith, unwavering in your assumption. Move on to live from the state of your wishes fulfilled. and watch in wonder as your world transforms to match the beauty of your inner vision. Remember, my friends, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not a place to be reached, but a state to be assumed. Assume it now. Live from it now. For in truth, there is only now this eternal moment in which all possibilities exist. Be strong in your knowing of this truth. Move on to embody it fully. And in doing so, you will discover the limitless power that has been within you all along. You will realize that you are the author of your life, the creator of your world. This, my dear friends, is the true meaning of be strong and move on. It is the strength to imagine boldly, to assume states that transcend your current circumstances. It is the movement from limitation to liberation, from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. As you leave here tonight, carry this truth with you. Let it infuse every aspect of your being. Be strong in your divine nature, in your creative power. Move on to assume the highest, most beautiful states you can conceive. For in doing so, you fulfill your destiny as a divine creator, shaping your world through the power of your imagination. Go now and create wonderfully. The world awaits your awakening. My dear friends, imagine standing before a vast, infinite ocean of possibility. This ocean, my beloved, is your consciousness, boundless, eternal, and ever responsive to your deepest beliefs and assumptions. Tonight we shall embark on a journey together, a journey into the very heart of creation itself. Our destination? A state of unwavering faith in the perfection of all things, a state where you act as if everything always works out for you. Now some of you might be thinking, but Neville, how can I possibly act as if everything always works out when my current reality shows me otherwise? And to you, I say this. Your current reality is but a shadow, a reflection of past thoughts and beliefs. It holds no power over your future unless you grant it such power. The world you see is a world that was. The world you will inhabit is the world you are imagining now. Consider for a moment the words of that great teacher who said, all things are possible to him who believes. These are not mere words of comfort, my friends. They are profound truth, a law as immutable as gravity itself. For in this universe, belief is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you truly believe, when you act from the conviction that all is working out for your highest good, you set in motion forces beyond your current comprehension. Let me share with you a principle that once grasped will revolutionize your entire existence. It is this: the world is yourself pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every event in your life is but an outpicturing of your own consciousness. When you change the content of your consciousness, when you alter your deep-seated beliefs about the nature of reality, the entire world must conform to this new pattern. So how does one begin to act as if everything always works out? It starts, my dear listeners, with a shift in perception. Instead of seeing the world as a place of struggle and strife, begin to see it as a playground of infinite possibility. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, see them as opportunities for growth and expansion. This is not mere positive thinking. This is a fundamental restructuring of your relationship with reality itself. Imagine for a moment that you are an actor on a grand stage. The play is your life, and you have been given a role to play. Now, what if I told you that you are not just the actor, but also the playwright, the director, and even the audience? What if I revealed to you that you have the power to rewrite the script at any moment, to direct the flow of events according to your deepest desires? This, my friends, is the essence of acting as if everything always works out for you. It is the recognition that you are the author of your own story, the creator of your own destiny. When you truly internalize this truth, when you allow it to permeate every fiber of your being, you will find that the universe itself conspires to bring about your good. But let me be clear, this is not about denying the existence of challenges or pretending that difficulties do not arise. Rather, it is about maintaining an unshakable faith that all things, all events, all circumstances are working together for your ultimate benefit. It is about trusting in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey, even when the path ahead seems uncertain or fraught with obstacles. Consider the life of Joseph in the biblical narrative. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned, he could have easily succumbed to despair. But Joseph maintained his faith. He acted as if everything was working out for him, even in the darkest of circumstances. And lo and behold, those very circumstances that seemed to spell his doom became the stepping stones to his ultimate triumph. You see, my dear friends, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you align yourself with the very creative power of the universe. You tap into a wellspring of infinite wisdom and intelligence that knows far better than your limited human mind how to bring about your highest good. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Neville, how can I maintain this attitude when everything around me seems to be falling apart? And to you, I say this. Your outer world is but a reflection of your inner assumptions. If you persist in the assumption that all is well, that all is working out for your highest good, then that must become your experience. Remember, the human imagination is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. In your imagination, you can be, do or have anything you desire. And as you persist in imagining the ideal outcome, as you continue to act as if everything always works out for you, you will find that your outer world begins to reshape itself to match your inner vision. Let me share with you a technique that I have found immensely powerful in cultivating this state of being. Before you sleep each night, review your day as if everything had worked out perfectly. See in your mind's eye each event, each interaction, each circumstance resolving in the most favorable way possible. Feel the joy, the relief, the profound gratitude that accompanies this perfect unfolding of events. As you drift off to sleep in this state of perfect contentment, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the true seat of creative power, the belief that everything always works out for you. And as you continue this practice night after night, you will find that your waking experiences begin to mirror your nightly imagined acts. But remember, my friends, this is not about escaping into a fantasy world. It is about recognizing the true nature of reality, that the world of imagination is the real world, and the world of physical senses is but a shadow. When you act from this understanding, when you live from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you are not denying reality. You are creating it. Now let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this profound truth. Every experience you have ever had, every circumstance you have ever encountered, began first as a state of consciousness. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your habitual thoughts, these are the raw materials from which your reality is fashioned. When you adopt the state of consciousness that everything always works out for you, you are essentially tuning your mental radio to a frequency of perfect harmony and divine order. And just as surely as a radio receiver picks up the signals that match its frequency, so too will your life experience begin to reflect this new state of being. But here's the crucial point, my dear listeners. You must persist in this new state. You must be willing to ignore the evidence of your physical senses when they contradict your chosen assumption. This is where many falter on the path to mastery. They begin with great enthusiasm, declaring that everything always works out for them, but at the first sign of apparent failure or setback, they abandon their assumption and fall back into old patterns of thought. Remember, the physical world is always a few steps behind the world of imagination. There may be a time lag between your change in consciousness and its manifestation in your outer experience. During this period of transition, you must hold fast to your new assumption. You must continue to act as if everything always works out for you, even when your senses scream otherwise. This, my friends, is the true test of faith, not a blind faith in some external power, but a deep, abiding faith in the creative power of your own consciousness. It is a faith that says, though the entire world may seem to conspire against me, I know that everything is working out for my highest good. Now let me address a question that often arises when I speak on this subject. Some ask, but Neville, if I act as if everything always works out for me, won't I become complacent? Won't I lose my drive to improve and overcome challenges? To this I say, acting as if everything always works out for you does not mean sitting idly by and expecting the world to cater to your every whim. Rather, it means approaching every situation, every challenge, every opportunity with an unshakable confidence in your ability to navigate it successfully. When you truly embrace this mindset, you'll find that your actions become more inspired, more purposeful. You'll be moved to take bold steps that you might have hesitated to take before. You'll find yourself rising to meet challenges with enthusiasm rather than dread, seeing them as opportunities for growth and expansion rather than obstacles to be feared. Moreover, this state of being naturally aligns you with what I call your high self, that aspect of you that is one with the divine creative power of the universe. From this alignment flows a wisdom and intuition that far surpasses the limited reasoning of the human intellect. You'll find yourself guided to take actions that lead to your highest good, often in ways that your rational mind could never have conceived. Let me illustrate this with a personal anecdote. Many years ago, when I first arrived in New York City, I found myself in dire financial straits. By all outward appearances, my situation was hopeless. But instead of succumbing to despair, I chose to act as if everything was working out perfectly for me. I imagined myself living in abundance, sharing my understanding of the law with eager audiences. Now, had I relied solely on my human intellect, I might have frantically searched for any job that would pay the bills. But acting from the state of knowing that all was well, I was guided to take a series of seemingly irrational actions. These actions, which made little sense to my rational mind at the time, ultimately led me to the very opportunities I had imagined for myself. You see, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you open yourself to a higher intelligence, a divine wisdom that knows exactly how to bring about your good in ways that your limited human mind cannot fathom. But let me be clear, this is not about wishful thinking or naive optimism. It is about aligning yourself with the fundamental creative principle of the universe. It is about recognizing that you are not a helpless victim of circumstance, but a powerful creator shaping your reality through your consciousness. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, what about the really big problems in my life? Surely this principle can't apply to everything and to you. I say, there are no big or small problems in the eyes of the infinite. The same power that can manifest a parking space can manifest a mansion. The same principle that can heal a paper cut can heal a terminal illness. The only limits that exist are the limits you place on your own imagination. When you truly grasp this, when you begin to act from this understanding, you'll find that the distinction between possible and impossible begins to blur. You'll start to see that the only true impossibility is that which you decree to be so in your own mind. Let me share with you another powerful technique for embodying this state of being. Throughout your day, whenever you encounter a situation that seems challenging or problematic, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how would I approach this if I knew with absolute certainty that everything always works out for me? Feel the shift in your energy as you ask this question. Notice how your perspective changes, how solutions that were hidden before suddenly become apparent. This simple practice, performed consistently, can transform your entire life experience. But remember, my dear friends, this is not about denying or suppressing negative emotions. If you feel fear, anxiety, or doubt arising, acknowledge these feelings. Thank them for their intention to protect you. But then gently remind yourself of the greater truth. Everything always works out for you. As you continue to practice this, you'll find that these negative emotions begin to lose their grip on you. They may still arise, but they will pass through you like clouds in the sky, unable to shake your seated knowing that all is well. Now, let us address another aspect of this principle that is often misunderstood. Acting as if everything always works out for you does not mean that you will never face challenges or that your life will be free from apparent setbacks. Rather, it means that you approach these situations with a fundamentally different attitude. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, you begin to see them as opportunities for growth and expansion. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures, you see them as necessary course corrections on your journey to your desired outcome. This shift in perspective is crucial, for it allows you to maintain your chosen state of consciousness even in the face of pitchless. And remember, it is your state of consciousness that determines your future experiences. Consider the life of any great achiever, any person who has left an indelible mark on the world. Without exception, you will find that their path was strewn with challenges, setbacks, and apparent failures. But what set them apart was their unshakable faith in their ultimate success, their ability to act as if everything was always working out for them, even in the darkest of times. Take, for example, the Wright brothers. For years, they labored to achieve powered flight, facing ridicule, financial hardship, and countless failed attempts. But they persisted in their assumption that flight was possible, that all their efforts were leading them to success. And indeed, everything did work out for them in the end, in a way that transformed the world. You see, my dear listeners, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you tap into a power that can move mountains. You align yourself with the very creative force of the universe. And in doing so, you become an unstoppable force of nature. But let me caution you, this is not about forcing outcomes or trying to control every aspect of your life. Rather, it is about surrendering to a higher wisdom, trusting in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey. It is about recognizing that the intelligence that beats your heart and grows your fingernails knows far better than your limited human mind how to bring about your highest good. When you truly embody this state of being, you'll find that you no longer need to struggle or strive in the way you once did. Your actions become more effortless, more inspired. You begin to flow with the current of life rather than constantly swimming against it. Now, some of you might be wondering, but Neville, how can I maintain this state when the world around me seems so chaotic and unpredictable? And to you, the world around you is a reflection of your own consciousness. When you change your consciousness, when you steadfastly hold to the assumption that everything always works out for you, you will find that the world reshapes itself to match this new pattern. Remember, your consciousness is the only true causative power in your life. External circumstances, no matter how seemingly solid or unchangeable, are always secondary to your state of being. When you truly grasp this, when you begin to live from this understanding, you will witness what can only be described as miracles in your life. But let me be clear, this is not about ignoring problems or pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about approaching these situations from a fundamentally different state of consciousness. It's about knowing deep in your bones that no matter what appears to be happening on the surface, everything is ultimately working out for your highest good. This knowing, this unshakable faith, becomes your anchor in the storms of life. It becomes the lens through which you interpret every event, every circumstance. And as you persist in this state, you'll find that the storms themselves begin to calm. That the challenges that once seemed insurmountable begin to resolve themselves in ways you could never have anticipated. Now, let me share with you another powerful practice for embodying this state of being. Each night before you sleep, take a few moments to review your day. But instead of simply recounting the events as they occurred, reimagine them as if everything had worked out perfectly. See that difficult conversation with your boss transforming into a productive exchange that leads to new opportunities. Envision that financial setback resolving itself in a way that ultimately benefits you. Picture that health challenge leading you to discover a new level of vitality and well-being. As you fall asleep in this state of perfect contentment, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the true seed of creative power, the belief that everything always works out for you. And as you continue this practice night after night, you will find that your waking experiences begin to align more and more closely with your imaginal acts. But remember, my friends, this is not about escaping into fantasy. It is about recognizing the true nature of reality. That your imagination is the creative power of God within you, and that the world you experience is but an outpicturing of your own consciousness. When you act from this understanding, when you live from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you are not denying reality, you are creating it. You are exercising your divine right as a co-creator with the infinite. Now let us delve even deeper into the mechanics of this profound truth. Every experience you have ever had, every circumstance you have ever encountered began first as a state of consciousness. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your habitual thoughts, these are the raw materials from which your reality is fashioned. When you adopt the state of consciousness that everything always works out for you, you are essentially tuning your mental radio to a frequency of perfect harmony and divine order. And just as surely as a radio receiver picks up the signals that match its frequency, so too will your life experience begin to reflect this new state of being. But here's the crucial point, my dear listeners, you must persist in this new state. You must be willing to ignore the evidence of your physical senses when they contradict your chosen assumption. This is where many falter on the path to mastery. They begin with great enthusiasm, declaring that everything always works out for them. But at the first sign of apparent failure or setback, they abandon their assumption and fall back into old patterns of thought. Remember, the physical world is always a few steps behind the world of imagination. There may be a time lag between your change in consciousness and its manifestation in your outer experience. During this period of transition, you must hold fast to your new assumption. You must continue to act as if everything always works out for you, even when your senses scream otherwise. This, my friends, is the true test of faith. Not a blind faith in some external power, but a deep, abiding faith in the creative power of your own consciousness. It is a faith that says, though the entire world may seem to conspire against me, I know that everything is working out for my highest good. As you cultivate this faith, as you persistently act from the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you will begin to witness what can only be described as miracles in your life. Doors that seem forever closed will suddenly swing open. Resources that you never knew existed will make themselves available to you. People will appear in your life at just the right moment to assist you on your journey. But remember, these are not miracles in the traditional sense of the word. They are simply the natural outworking of the law of consciousness. They are the inevitable result of aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. Now, let me address a concern that often arises when I speak on this subject. Some worry that acting as if everything always works out for them might lead to a kind of passive acceptance of undesirable circumstances. They fear that they might lose their drive to improve their lives or to right the wrongs they see in the world. To this I say, nothing could be further from the truth. When you truly embody the state of knowing that everything always works out for you, you become more empowered, not less. You approach challenges with confidence rather than fear. You take inspired action rather than reacting from a place of desperation or anxiety. Moreover, this state of being naturally aligns you with your highest purpose. You begin to see the bigger picture, to understand how even apparent setbacks are serving your ultimate good and the good of all. From this perspective, you are moved to take actions that are truly in alignment with your deepest values and aspirations. Consider for a moment the great change makers of history, the men and women who have brought about significant positive changes in the world. Without exception, you will find that they acted from a place of unshakable faith in the rightness of their cause. They persisted in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds because they knew deep in their hearts that everything was working out for the highest good. Martin Luther King Jr., for example, faced violence, imprisonment, and constant threats to his life. Yet he continued to act from the assumption that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice. He lived as if everything was working out, not just for him personally, but for the entire civil rights movement. And indeed, his faith was vindicated, though he did not live to see the full fruits of his labor. You see, when you act as if everything always works out for you, you tap into a power that is greater than your individual self. You become a channel for the divine creative force of the universe. And in doing so, you not only transform your own life, but you become a catalyst for positive change in the world around you. But let me be clear, this is not about becoming complacent or accepting injustice. It is about approaching every situation, no matter how challenging, from a place of empowered faith rather than fear or despair. It is about knowing that you have within you the power to overcome any obstacle, to right any wrong, to create any reality you can imagine. As you continue to practice this way of being, you'll find that your very presence becomes a transformative force in the world. People will be drawn to your unwavering faith, your unshakable peace. They will sense, perhaps unconsciously, that you are tapped into a higher wisdom, a deeper truth. And as you share this truth with others, as you demonstrate through your own life that everything always works out, you become a beacon of hope in a world that so desperately needs it. You become living proof of the infinite potential that lies within each and every human being. Now, my dear friends, as we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a final thought. The principle we have explored tonight, that everything always works out for you, is not just a nice idea or a comforting belief. It is a fundamental truth of existence, a law as immutable as gravity itself. But like any law, it requires your conscious participation to be effective in your life. You must choose moment by moment to align yourself with this truth. You must be willing to relinquish your old beliefs, your old patterns of thought, and embrace this new way of being. It may not always be easy. There will be times when your physical senses, your rational mind, and perhaps even those around you will tell you that things are not working out. In these moments, you must be willing to stand firm in your knowing. You must be willing to say, I do not accept the appearance of things. I know that everything is working out for my highest good, even if I cannot yet see how. As you persist in this practice, as you continue to act as if everything always works out for you, you will begin to witness a transformation in your life that can only be described as miraculous. You will find yourself moving through life with a sense of ease and grace that you may have never thought possible. You will discover within yourself resources of strength, wisdom, and creativity that you never knew you possessed. But more than this, you will begin to understand your true nature as a divine being, as a co-creator with the infinite. You will realize that you are not a helpless victim of circumstance, but a powerful creator, shaping your reality through the power of your consciousness. And as you step into this power, as you fully embrace your role as a conscious creator, you will find that your life becomes a living testament to the truth we have explored tonight. You will become living proof that everything always works out, not just for you, but for all of creation. So go forth, my dear friends, with this knowing deep in your heart. Act as if everything always works out for you, for indeed it does. Trust in the perfect unfolding of your life's journey, even when the path ahead seems uncertain. Know that you are guided, supported, and loved beyond measure by the very creative power of the universe itself. And remember, the world is waiting for you to step into your power, to shine your light, to demonstrate through your own life the miraculous truth that everything always works out. The world is waiting for you to become the person you were always meant to be, a conscious creator, aligned with the infinite, living a life of joy, purpose, and boundless possibility. Thank you, my dear friends, for your attention and your willingness to explore these profound truths. May you go forth and live from the knowing that everything always works out for you. And in doing so, may you inspire others to do the same. For as you transform your own life, you transform the world. And that, my beloved, is the greatest miracle of all.